down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
All right, welcome everybody. I am super excited to introduce you all to my good friend, Steven VanCauwenbergh. I first met Steven over 2 years ago, and I was immediately impressed with his knowledge of real estate and management. And in the time since getting to know him much better, I'm continually impressed by his willingness to help others. In his career, just a few things he's done include building an impressive rental portfolio, developing systems for management to make those rentals passive, and building an education company to help others learn how to invest. So without divulging any more or stealing any more of his thunder, welcome, Steven.
Hey, Chad, I'm excited. I'm excited to be a part of your success of your venture with TrueWealth investors. It's true. You will be wealthy with the more you learn, the more you grow as an individual and ultimately as an investor. I'm excited.
Sure. Well, I'm glad you were able to join us. So I know your backstory, but for everybody listening, how did you first get the itch for real estate, or how did you first get involved?
All right. Well, just even a little bit more backstory. I was born in September 1973. So you could do the math, or I can cut right to the chase. I'm 46 years old. I was with a mom. Of course, I was mom and dad. My dad left when I was 2, and my brother at that time was 6 years older than me. He was 8. To go foster home, which was difficult to deal with, and I felt bad for him. I really didn't know him. Obviously, I was 2, but he took the burden of my dad leaving my mom, that it was my fault per se, or his fault, and he really conflicted, and he became out of control physically and emotionally. Tried to kill me several times as a child, because that would solve all the problems, that if I was gone, then my dad would come back. And it's sad to say, but that's not the reality. A bad person that just decided to be selfish, leave a mother and 2 children behind. And so my life started out like that. It wasn't roses and all glamorous. The only thing I knew and only thing I saw, and it's funny, I was just thinking about this today, about you could say all you want to say, but the only way can impact in our life is to model them. And as I reflect that, how am I modeling that to my children today? And what modeled to me as a child was hard work, and also the pain of being abandoned. But my mom worked 3 jobs the majority of my life. I saw my brother a couple of times. I saw my dad like once when I was about 16, which was a very awkward situation. I was born in Dover, New Jersey, lived there for about 14 years. And then my mom just ran into some more issues with the school district where I was going. I had behavioral problems as a child. I was overweight, and I had a learning disability. I was about 6 years behind in reading, and I just lashed out. I had so much anger towards my dad, anger towards my brother, and even my mom too. I was mad at her because she was never around. She never saw me play a sport. She basically worked all the time. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. She lived in the living room. I lived in the bedroom, and that's all I knew was apartments. And I was very angry that every time I tried to ask for something, no, we didn't have the money, or no, you can't have your friends over because, she was ashamed of our living conditions, that she lived in the living room. And I mean, I can't, now at 46 years old, I'm like, wow, just the sacrifice that this poor woman did, and just the abuse that I gave her and the way I treated her, and I yelled at her and I was mad, but I didn't understand as a child that, it was a difficult time in my life. So that was the breeding ground of being driven. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to live any longer in this environment. I didn't understand, I got bused to a special school because I was behind in reading, and I was in New Jersey that you're forced to go to school in you have to go to school, and I was bused to a school of about 50 kids, and there was about 6 to 8 kids in my class, and there were roughneck kids. I got beat up on the bus all the time, and it was just a very bad environment. And my mom, you know, tried to get me out of that environment, but I got kicked out of school for fighting, for being disruptive, and there was no other way. And what we came to find out was that every child in this school got paid. So the government, or you know, New Jersey, the government, you have to go to school, and for every child is $1 bill. And so when I asked them one time, and I remember this around 11, 12 years old, I was like, well, how do I get out of this school? I was working on my behavior. I was overcoming my reading disabilities. There's a lot more detail in there, but they were like, well, we can mainstream you, you know, work on your behavior. And so I did. And I was ready, and I was like ready to roll. I was like, okay, I did everything you wanted me to do. I want to go to regular school. And they're like, no, you can't, you got one more year. And I think my mom, you know, when I look back, my mom is super smart and savvy. She was gangster. And she was like, she knew something was up. And she was like, this poor woman just picked up everything. And we moved across the country. We moved to California. This is like the real deal Karate Kid. We had a Volkswagen a Jetta, the little, man, I can't remember the name. It's a little tiny Volkswagen, looks like a Jetta. And there's a two-door and a little U-Haul trailer. And we drove across the country, took like 7 days, and we landed in California, in San Diego. It's an area called Imperial Beach, which was just by Tijuana. And it was interesting because back then they didn't have the internet. And my mother, for some weird reason, did not have my transfers papers from school.
Oh man.
And so which was good though, because I had this bad record of being disruptive and learning disabilities, and I'm a special ed child. And, you know, so after a month or so, they reluctantly let me enroll in Imperial Beach. So I got to go to high school for the first time, which was extremely powerful. And I got straight A's. And it was an amazing opportunity for me. And at that point, my mom could not find a job. And we lived right by the border. I mean, you could see Tijuana from our backyard. And almost seems like every house got broken into. Now, keep in mind, at this time in my life, we had zero. We had this little Golf VW, I can't remember the name, with a trailer. I mean, we lived on an airbed. We had a dinner table. We had nothing. And so my mom couldn't find work. The labor was so cheap there. And we were about to get on welfare. And my mom did the unthinkable and called my dad. At this time, lived in the Bay Area, San Francisco-ish area, which is called Richmond, California, and called her. And she was like beyond desperate. Now, keep in mind, I did not know this. I was so ignorant as a child because I was at special school. So I was basically sheltered as a child, which was a good thing, because the only thing I did was I just worked on computers. I'm an introvert. I didn't really go out. I didn't have any friends because all my people I went to school with were shipped there. And I did not go to school with the kids in my neighborhood in the apartment. So I basically I was an introvert, which I am personally, and I've overcome that. And so my mom called my dad, and that was the first time I ever got to meet this dude. We packed up again and left San Diego. I think we were in there for 6 months, maybe 8 months. And my whole life, we moved almost every 3 to 4 years. So I've always lived in an apartment. I've always moved often. And we moved into with my dad, which was the unbelievable experience of a lifetime, living with a dude who's been married several times. Internet just came online, and dating was coming on, and I lived with this guy. And at the time, my brother was, he was still in the foster home ish, or just graduating. He went into the Navy. And then that's how I got to California. And in there, I was at basketball. I finally got my paper organized. This time I had transfer papers from Imperial Beach, California. which I had straight A's. And so I was there for at least 1 or 2 semesters. So those transferred in, and I was able to go to school, but I still had the special needs, special education tied to my name. And I went to, I got worked that off, and long story short, but anyway, I graduated. I came, one powerful story was on July 29th, 1991. I came to know Christ. I was in gym class. Someone invited me to gym class and said, "You want to go to church?" I was like, "No, F church. There's nothing going on at church." He's like, "Bro, there's women there, girls there." And I was like, "Well, I'll check it out." And it was my first time ever hearing the word Jesus. I was like, "Who the heck is Jesus?" And Jesus died for me. No, he didn't. Who's this dude, Jesus? And that was the very first time I was 16 years old that I ever even heard the word Jesus, which is phenomenal if you think about it, especially living in Oklahoma, which is a biblical Bible belt. But for a whole, I heard Jesus for the very first time, and I was like, wow, this guy. Mom said if I was good and I believed in God, I'd go to heaven. I didn't know that you'd have to Jesus as your savior, and I was really frustrated, confused, and angry at my youth minister. I went to church for the first time, and they accepted me, and I would really curse at them and say, "F you, I'm not going to hell," because I didn't believe in Jesus. I mean, I was a wild child. You got to keep in mind, man, like, I'm all cool now. But I mean, this poor woman, I mean, she was a 5 foot Chinese or Asian, whatever you want. I don't be politically correct. And I was not easy to work with. And so I, for a whole year, I went to church there. And I am an introvert. I am a very detailed person. And I really, if I was going to make a commitment to this Jesus guy, I'm going to go all in. And so I went all in.
That's
on July 29th, 1991. And that's when I came to know Christ. And so then I, went through high school with a new perspective. I really in love with computers. I understood Pascal and BASIC, and my dream was to go to a computer college. And, my educational background, being behind and reading, really didn't help me at all. And so I just struggled. I didn't know what I was going to do. And my youth minister, who, led me to the cross, she went to Oklahoma Baptist University. And this girl, her name is Jeannie Wong. She's the most amazing woman. And she invited me. She's like, "I want you to consider going to Oklahoma Baptist University." And I was like, "What is Oklahoma?" And again, never even heard the word Oklahoma. Like, I don't even think we drove through there.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know. I mean, I didn't know my geographical locations. She's like, "Oklahoma, isn't there Indians and teepees?" And, and she's like, "I'll drive you there for spring break or something." And I was like, okay. So my senior year, I saw the campus, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I felt the calling to go there, and it wasn't easy. I didn't have the SAT scores to get in, and I had to write an essay, and my youth minister had to write an essay, and I proved all the naysayers wrong, that I would never be able to go to college. They thought I was going to, when I was in that special school, they're like, "You need to learn a trade. You need to learn to be a woodworker. You're never going to make it. You're fat. You're ugly. You're ignorant." And that's all I heard all my life. And I was going to prove them wrong one day. And I finally made it to college. So when I made it there, I was a young Christian. I've only been a Christian for my senior year. And I just grew up really fast, and I started just hustling. My mom literally was pissed off. My mom wasn't saved. She didn't know Jesus. And she's like, "You're going to go to Oklahoma." And in the conversations I had with my mom when I first became the Lord, she was like, "Why are you giving the church money when we're broke?" Just this crazy things. And I was a born again Christian. Like, I was telling the world there's a better way. And so it was difficult that my mom didn't understand, why. But I would leave her to go to this school.
I'm sure, yeah. When you struggle through so much together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We went through life together. I mean, my mom just did, as I realize now at 46, realizing that my mom did everything for me, that where I'm at today with the resources and the economic position that I'm in, I mean, you wouldn't believe. I mean, at one time in my life and during college, I was homeless. I mean, I had no money. And, I was telling one of my business partners in an endeavor that we're going over these meetings today. I mean, that's all I've been doing is meetings, how we're going to deal with this COVID and stuff. And I'm like, I told them that I'm like, I'm used to like, this is just calm for me. Like, if we can overcome, you can overcome anything. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. So anyone went to college?
I think that's an awesome encouragement for people, because, I mean, you obviously had a very comforting mother, and you know, she was doing everything she could for you, but you didn't have a lot of other things in your favor. So is there something you tend to say to people if they feel like they can't be successful because of their situation or because of their background, or you know, if people complain they don't know the right people or came from the wrong neighborhood?
You know, when I hear those people now, I mean, it's a very good question, Chad. I just ignore those people. I avoid those people. I can't help them because I can't, it's like, it's hard to explain to someone that has, you know, I try to buy, you know, I try to encourage them. Like, so let me give you a little piece of the story, because I try to give people the book. So what happened was, I went to college, didn't do well. I left, and then eventually I started working with this band. And I'm going to answer that question here in a minute. So the band, I started being their band manager, and I was managing this band around the country. And one day they handed me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and their dad read it. And they were very savvy 18-year-old kids, and they were able to have freedom, and they were able to tour around the country and not worry about money. Now, we made money as we were touring the country. We sold CDs and merchandise. So, but you know, they really didn't worry about their house because they lived in a duplex. And so they gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read this book, and I was like, wow, I can be rich. I don't have to have a pedigree. I don't have to go to college. I don't have to do these things. I just have to buy assets. And I didn't understand what an asset was. And so when I read that book, there's 3 times this has happened to me, but once before, when I came to know Jesus, when I read Matthew, the scales were lifted off. I was like, wow, I see, you know, I see. And then when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, the scales were lifted off. And so now I run around like a Bible beater for Rich Dad Poor Dad. At this time I'm 25 years old, and I was giving the book out like crazy. I mean, I was looking at my Amazon account the other day. I mean, I've ordered that book probably at least 30 something times on my Amazon account since Amazon is in existence. Before then, I was buying it by the case, and I would just give people the book, you know. And I always say this example. It's like, if you had the cure for cancer, you would tell everybody, I have the cure for cancer, you know, take this pill. But see, it's the same thing for wealth. It's like, I have the cure. It's this book. And it worked for me. I just bought assets. I didn't buy a DVD player. I don't own a Wii. I know these neighbors around me. They're like, what in the world? I'm sorry. My son cannot get on because we think of other ways to do things to entertain ourselves. Nothing wrong with video games, but in my mind, that's a doodad. That's not making me any money. So I have no interest in that. And I'm being point blank. When I was 25 years old, I only spent all the way probably till I was about 40. I became a millionaire probably in around 35. I was like, I only spend money on things that make me money. So if that cheeseburger doesn't make me money, I'm not going to buy the cheeseburger. I'm going to opt for the turkey. That's 68 cents. I'm not going to buy the $3 cheeseburger. Like, I'm not serious. Like, that's how, like, people don't want to sacrifice. Like, I had to, my mom sacrificed. So maybe it was ingrained in me. Drive was, I did not want to, my mom. Like, my mom worked 3 jobs, had no life. She had a bad son. She had another son in a foster home. I can't imagine what that gal had to go through. So I knew that the pain and the anguish that just crushed was, I don't want to be my mom. I didn't want to be rich. Thank God I'm rich. God has blessed me beyond recognition. I mean, the goals that I have, I've crushed all my goals. I can't even imagine in the place where I'm sitting right now, and the conversations that I'm having are just unbelievable. And people call me and ask me for my opinion. Like, I was on a call yesterday with 30 other investors. They really want me on the call. I'm like, what am I going to tell you that you don't know? Like, what makes me so much more special than you? I just do what they say. Like, I don't know. I just, it's simple to me. It's like, you know, faith in Jesus is simple to me. Making money is simple to me. It's a simple sacrifice. You buy assets, and yeah, there's some risk involved, but I don't see that there's risk. I just see it's calculated. I bought this house the other day. It's worth $100,000. I got it for $40,000. It's 40 cents on the dollar. I know I'm going to have to put in at least 10 or 15,000 in rehab. Let's just say worst case scenario, the world ends. I need 60 G's in it. How much can I rent it for? 800, 850, 1,000. That is a deal. That's not a risk to me. That's a calculated risk. And so it just boils down to, I just read the book and I sold everything I owned. I sold my microwave. I sold my TV. And I only bought things that made me money. I bought a new computer that I was DJing at the time that would burn CDs, which was very expensive back then. I bought headphones. I needed headphones to operate my DJ business. Whatever that would make me more money or make me more efficient or move me to the right direction, I paid for it. And even today, I paid for a call yesterday and couldn't make this yesterday. It was $50. I know people are charging money. I know I'm doing free calls, but it was $50. It was an attorney and a landlord hosting a seminar. And I couldn't make it because I had another obligation. And I called my staff and I was like, listen, do you have time at 1 o'clock tomorrow? Can you do this and take notes and email me the audio? Can you do that? Yes. And she emails me back. She's like, do you know that this costs $50? I'm like, yes. I know it costs $50. Just pay for it. And it costs money. It moves us forward. It cut the perfect call. Was it probably the perfect call? What it did though for me, that $50, it reinforced our policies and procedures that I just finished 3 hours ago writing 7 documents that I just wrote that are policies and procedures that we're handling every circumstance. That phone call just reconfirmed that legality-wise, how we're going to handle if we're going to have any people not paying their rent. That's what $50 does. Or the call that I was on before that, people were speculating, like, I think this is wrong. Oh, I'm going to contact my tenants. I think you're dumb. Don't contact them. Let them contact you. They know what they should be doing. But see, when you start getting false information or some guru says you should do this, and next thing you know, you're at the mercy of confusion. Sometimes you got to pay. So I need any money that I make. Even today, I know I do spend a little bit differently than I did, but today I only buy things or invest in things that make money, and the only thing that are going to help me or propel me. To move me forward.
So do you think with your kids' background, are you able to kind of instill that in them still, knowing that they come from a much different situation than you did growing up?
I mean, it's extremely difficult, teaching someone hard. I think it's difficult that we know. The answer to your question is very extremely difficult to teach them hard work. Sometimes I wish they would suffer. They don't suffer. There's a pool outside. People are dying in the coronavirus and they're in the pool swimming. I mean, is it wrong? No. Is it right? I don't know. But the reality,
force suffering on your children. They need to work hard, but you wouldn't.
But they do. But we treat them like machines. They wake up. They have a checklist. They must do their checklist. We've not homeschooled. We're homeschooling now. They get up. They have a routine. They follow. They get up. They check off their checklist. Do they clean their bed, pick up their room, brush their teeth, Go in, read for 20 minutes, go to the computer, work on your math facts, and then you get free time, 30 minutes or an hour. I mean, we're structured. I didn't have that at my mom. I didn't have any structure. I had no idea if we were going to have Christmas. I didn't know I knew that I would never get new clothes. I never got new clothes. I didn't know what new clothes were. And then when I got new clothes, I didn't want to wear them because I didn't want to mess them up. And I had to overcome, it took me probably 15 years, I don't know, at least 5 to 10 years for me to overcome the scarcity mentality and to break that curse that was on me. My kids, you know, they have the abundance mentality. And so the greatest thing that I'm teaching them are just different principles of we give more. We give more. You know, right now we found out that there's kids with cancer that in the hospitals and people can't visit them. They don't have activities. So what we did, we went and bought at the dollar store activities, and we're going to drop that stuff off. I mean, we give. They don't understand, like, why are we doing it? Because we give, because we can give, because we have the money and we have the resources. We thank God we did all this before everything was shut down. We stocked up at the dollar store and we bought all this stuff and we got to drop it off. But, you know, they see that. Now I try to teach my son, I teach him about accounting and I teach them to be smart and how to make money. I know that they'll be wealthy. I know that for a fact. I don't have to worry about my 3 children because they have the key principles that I have instilled in them from birth. This is how you make money. We work, you know, they know how to make money. They make now. My daughter makes money now. She made bracelets and sold them at school. She went door to door. She sold 300 Girl Scouts. She's not afraid of rejection. Now my one daughter is, and my boy doesn't, but my son paints pictures, wants to copy them on the copier and sell them. I mean, the guy's like, he's like trying to run a gallery. Like, I mean, and my wife is like super encouraging. Yeah, I mean, I need to write this stuff down because, I mean, my wife instilled it today. She's like, okay, we need to set up some tables outside and just let people walk by the art gallery and just to give them something else to think about. And then my mind was like, maybe we should have a tip jar at the end to pay for the gallery. Like, but
give them every opportunity, right?
But I don't know we're going to try to burn in them to answer your difficult question. And it's a phenomenal question. They will have a different lifestyle, but they will know we will teach them hard work. It's not easy. They kick and scream. They don't like it. One of them doesn't, but they will learn it. We will force it upon them. Nothing is free. Nothing is easy. You know, Jim Rohn says, harder on yourself, life is much easier. And, you know, and each one of them are at different stages. We approach different, you know, for a while we were, and then I read that that's wrong because then they don't have the desire to read. So then we stopped that for a while. And then now one of them is both of them are, my oldest ones are madly in love with reading. But if you were around about a half ago, I was crying. I couldn't figure out how to get my child to read. Like, he was not motivated, but all of a sudden now my son is super motivated and my daughter's super motivated. But it's weird. I just tried to set a goal up today. I'm trying to ramp up my weight loss. And I was like, okay, guys, this is how I get motivated. I set up a goal and I'm going to work out twice a day. And if I do it for 7 days, I'm going to get a reward. Let's do that for reading. Let's double up our reading. Okay, right now we're required to read 20 minutes a day. What if we read 2 times a minute? Wait a minute. This is the easiest money you're to read an extra 20 minutes. And, you know, I just think it's just an interesting time of their life. It's just growth. And you there? Oh yeah, you're there.
Yeah, it broke up for a second. So I think it's awesome. Just, you can tell that you have a very close relationship with your kids and you invest a lot of time in with them. And I know your relationship with them is amazing. And I know, you know, you live out your principles, and we can be very deliberate with our kids about what we try to instill in them, but really they automatically instill what we live out. They automatically adopt those things. So I think it's exciting to see them develop as they get older and see how our perspectives kind of come out through them. So I've struggled with reading with my kids too. And my two middle kids do great with reading. My oldest, he went through a phase where he didn't want to read. And I realized I was just kind of pushing the wrong books or offering the wrong books. And then I started having him look at Tim Tebow books and football books, and all of a sudden he took off. So once I got on his subject, what he was really passionate about, suddenly that passion was there, and he was interested. So it is an interesting process raising them.
I think that's a very important thing. I was talking to a dad in the neighborhood. We were offering books to them, and he's like, I can't get my son to read or whatever. And he mentioned baseball, and the son was there first. And you hit it on the head. I think you need to foster that. It could be sports, it could be art, it could be artistic. You just don't know. But I think if you really try to dial into their passions, like you said, for the moment, and they're going to change. Like we're into Legos right now, and Legos, like fascinating that is. But we're studying Legos, and we're reading about Legos. We have books on Legos, and my son is like me. He likes nonfiction, and so he's fascinated by that stuff. And so I think you got to feed that passion ready when they're ready.
Yeah, definitely. So was there a point, in telling your life story and kind of how you got into real estate and discovered that passion through Robert Kiyosaki's book, and you started investing, was there a point where you felt like you had made it, or did you just constantly feel like you needed more?
Man, great question. Well, I just set out, wanted to be a millionaire, whatever that means. It means till back then. I remember, asking my accountant at the time. My accountant would come over to my house and go over my taxes and stuff. And I asked her, I was like, hey, am I a millionaire? And she's like, Stephen, you've been a millionaire for several years. And so I never really sat down. It's not an end goal. The problem is, I think with real estate investors, we just like, okay, I need 50 units. I'm a millionaire. It's all about the lifestyle. I don't really think that a number really matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can be happy with that cash flow, exactly what you need to cash flow. My wife brought up someone that I used to coach several years ago, and she's like, I haven't heard you talk about blank, blank, blank. And I was like, yeah, she did it. I need 17 houses, and she's free. She's free. I mean, like, how much more money did the chick need? I mean, that girl was a very smart investor. I loved coaching her because she did it. I mean, some men are just driven by one-upping everybody. I fell into that race. I really thought I got out of the rat race one time, and then I've been out of the rat race. I'm out of the rat race now, and then I got back into it. But I remember when I got to like 20-something, 10 units, and I thought I was going to be a millionaire, and it didn't work. And I got to 25 units, it didn't work. And then I got to 50 units, and I'm like, man, this is. Then I was like, when I got to 50, so I was like, well, I guess I'll get to 100 units, and it's kind of dumb. Like, it's just the way I look at it now. It's like, wow, 100 units. It's just more headache. I got more staff, especially with this COVID deal. I made a board decision today. I'm like, look, we're going to pay everybody their salary. We're going to pay everybody. Like, if we got to figure it out. We're not going to cut people. We're not going to let people go. We're not going to fire people. We're not going to furlough people. We're going to pay people. This is what we do. But when I got to 100, I was depressed. And then when I got to 150, I was like, oh man, and then I'm like, what am I chasing? I mean, yeah, I'm staying at the 150 mark. I got a 280 units right now. I got 140 in Oklahoma City and I got 140 in Houston. The reality is though, I mean, I could easily be selfish and shut all this down and be completely debt free and live off of this cash flow. But then I don't employ all these people either. I have all these people on payroll, rehabbers, property managers, general managers, you know, all these people that I provide. And so I just think that it's not a number or a status. I think it really boils down to a lifestyle. And it's really hard to, what does that lifestyle look like? And I'm a very simple person. It's not a fancy car for me. It's not a $500,000 house for me. And I think that you've got to, as a human being, Christian or not, you've got to find contentment. And especially in these times, it's been phenomenal for me because it really puts everything into perspective. What really, really matters. Like what, I mean, like, yeah, I'm, you know, I mean, I see all this drama on Facebook and all this. And then I saw people posting pictures of the pool, they're at the pool. And I'm like, I'm never going to post a picture of us in the pool when people are dying. Like, that's just not going to happen. I have a pool. Yeah. Are we using the pool? Absolutely. God bless us with this pool. We're going to have the pool. We're going to use the pool. We're not going to suffer because, I mean, it doesn't cost us any money because it's already there. Like, yeah, should we install a new pool right now? Probably not. Because I got people on payroll. It just doesn't, like, I don't know, you know, and I don't, honestly, you know, my one goal is to hit 10 million. When I hit that goal in assets, I was like, okay, great. You know, where's this going to go from here? I was content when I was a million. Even a million, you don't really make any money. You're still broke. So even cushions, but there's still dips and valleys on my horizon. You know, and now I'm just trying to, I'm trying to figure out at my part 20 years later, I'm like, how can I give more? How can I, you know, books on, can I live on 25% of my income and 75? And I'm not just to say that because I'm some super Christian or I'm saying that some philanthropist, or I'm some better person you knew, but that's the great thing that you can do with life when you have real estate. When you have real estate that provides for you, you have options. Now, these people may not be paying rent, so real estate may not be the best source of income for everybody.
I think that's
we'll see what
a great reminder though for people, because so many people when they get into real estate, it is just about the numbers, the number of doors or the amount of rent that they're bringing in and the amount of cash flow. And I think, you know, naturally or hopefully eventually everybody gets beyond that and starts to focus more on the lifestyle that provides or the impact that they can have and the way they can give back because of the real estate. I know when I was at about, it was like in the mid 40s, and I'm nowhere near you. I'm just my little bit of my journey. When I was in my mid 40s, when sellers would call and want to sell their house, I just saw it as another headache. You know, I couldn't deal with another tenant or anything. So the numbers weren't going to help me. If I got more units, that was just more problems because I didn't have the systems to manage it. So I think it's.
I think that's a huge point, man. I think what you just said. Hear that? I thought the same way. Another headache, but in another, oh wow, you're able to get another house. I think to speak what you're saying, there's a different growth stages in your career as an investor where the way I look at houses now are totally different than the ones I bought. For example, when I go to a house, I really, like, I haven't been there in 6 years. So I go see this house and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I bought this. And I remember, you know, at that time, 6 years ago, and trying to buy any house I could get. And then there was a season where I was like, please, not another house, because they're all yelling at me and they all hate me and my maintenance man sucks. And what can I do? I you know, peaks and valleys, and then you have to mentally prepare for that. And I think it, you know, I think if we could educate people on really trying to find true contentment, and, you know, I think what sustained me was a really good book called Creating Wealth by Robert G. Allen. You know, that was one of the first books right after Rich Poor Dad was, I started at that time in 1999 was when I bought my first property. I was so uneducated and I had no money. So I just was drawn to the nothing down mentality because I didn't have no money. And so when I started reading, you know, Carlton Sheets and or Chart, whatever the guy's name is, and Robert G. Allen, Nothing Down, I just, you know, you can be a millionaire with this formula. And I think that I remember vividly is like, even if I just bought this one house and I held on for 20, 15 years, it's going to be worth this much debt free. And so I think that's where you have to just continue to live in contentment. Like if you just have 5 houses today, be thankful that you have 5 houses and that you can manage them and cash.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge.
Pay them, and they're gonna lose them all. I just remember vividly when I was at all those stages where I wish I had more houses, I couldn't afford them, or they got too many and I can't handle them, and I have no money. And then I was just like, I was at least 2 times that there was one time I actually called the church and I was going to give them all away because it was losing so much money. I miscalculated everywhere and I was falling in love with Jesus and I was going to walk away from this deal. And I've seen people walk away and I don't understand, you know, and I think the greatest thing is that you fight the good fight, you keep fighting, you keep rolling, but you need to be content and know that in 15 years, this house, if it's paying $500 today, is probably going to pay that plus a little bit more. Now with this $1 trillion deficit, inflation might be $1,000 a month, but it will be paid off if you did nothing and just let the system operate. And I think that's one thing that we're not teaching investors is like, trust the process. And that's where Creating Wealth, that guy wrote that book in the 80s. He's like, look, if you want to be a millionaire, this is exactly how you do it. And I just followed the exact plan. Buy one house, you pay it off, you buy another house, you mortgage another house, you do this for 10 years, exactly his system, and you become a full-blown debt-free millionaire. I just took those I mean, it's a slow game in my mind, 10 years. But it inspired me, and I just accelerated that bad boy. All right, because he was just like, buy one house, sit on it, let it appreciate, fix it up, make sure you buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, make sure it's got $50,000 worth of equity, you sell it, you get $40,000 in cash, you buy another one, you do it again. It's a mathematical equation. It's phenomenal. If you're into math, it's called Creating Wealth by Robert G. Allen. It's a simple freaking book. The reality is I just did that times 10. I just 10x that deal. And it just becomes a snowball thing.
I mean, that's obviously very wise investing advice at any time. But right now, especially when everything seems up in the air and people are uncertain what's going to happen next week, next month, and really have no certainty what's going on in the future. I mean, the old system, or that simple system, works. You just stay faithful to it. So with the system you're talking about, it doesn't matter if it's an up market or a down market or a buyer's market, seller's market. You just keep ownership of the house and just let the tenant pay it off in whatever market, right?
And then even you know, and I remember an investor, exactly. At the time, I didn't understand what he meant. I just was like, okay, I believe in this plan. It makes sense. I'm just going to follow the plan. I didn't understand the mathematical equation behind it until I met someone that has 600 units. And then I met someone that had 600 units that was about 10 or 20 years ahead of me. And he's a really good friend of mine. And he used to teach, he used to teach in the RIA, and he would say, your house is going to double in 15 years. So I've known this guy for about 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Game for 20 years. So when I first met him, I was only in the game for 10 years. It took me 10 years to be a millionaire part-time. I was just slow, buying one house when I could. And it took me 10 years to be a millionaire part-time. So I ran into him I was just in awestruck of him. I think he had like 400 at the time, 10 years ago. And he's probably 100 now. I don't know. The guy's a crazy animal. And he would say this when he would speak. He would like, your house is going to double in 15 years. I'm like, this guy's a liar. You know, I'm like, how's that possible? Blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you right now, it does. And, you know, because if you like that house I just bought 40 cents on the dollar. So it's $100,000 house. I'll have 50 in it is what I'm trying to keep it at. I'm trying to keep, it may go over, right? It's okay. But I'm going to, 50,000. It's already doubled in value. I mean, now it's going to be worth probably in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it'll be worth 150. It's just like, it's just mathematics. It's just inflation. It's fascinating. Right. And it's true. There's at least 50 of my portfolio, because I've been unloading them, which if you read my book, The Savvy Landlord, I'm like, never sell houses. You have to, there's a massage in here, but I have sold houses for double what I bought them. I bought a duplex for 11,000. I think I got like 35 in it, maybe 40 in it. I sold it for 80, just beginning of the bubble. I mean, just like 2-3 years ago. I mean, it was just beyond, this is when you learn, you know, debt equity, and it's like $40,000 cash today, what you could do with it versus, yeah, I'm making $400 a month off that property because it was a duplex. It was $500 a side or $450 a side. Yeah, I was making about $400 or $500 a month, and I was making about $500 a month in revenue. But man, if you took $40,000 and go to put it to work, I could make way more money. And it's smart to sell. There's a time to sell. And there's a time to buy. You should be buying all the time. You should always be buying. I will be buying real estate. Always. I mean, I'm actively looking. The market is rough right now. There's wholesalers every corner, and they're overpricing everything. There's a lot of rookie people. Now they're all gone because of the coronavirus, and it'll be about 3 to 6 months from now. I'll be buying them, you know, at a real price. I mean, right. I got fortunate on this. I got fortunate on 2 deals in the pipeline. I mean, it seems like 6 months ago, I even heard the word contract. But this is where you got to be faithful. You've got, especially in this time, you got to stick to your guns. You got to stick to, like, you know, somebody teases me all the time, Steven, it's 2020. You can't buy houses at 2011 prices. This dude says this to me. It rings in my head all the time. And I'm like, I'm going to stick with the 2011 prices. There's an investor in my market that I used to not like, and he only buys everything at 50 cents on the market. 50 cents. Like, I'm like, and this is how uneducated. I remember when I really started ramping up in 2011, 2012 was when I really became a full-time investor. And I remember hanging out with another real investor for the first time, and he would say these words to me, I only buy at 70%. And I thought this guy was a douchebag. I was like, dude, how's that possible? Where are you finding 70% deals? Well, that's my, you know, so funny. 10 years later, that's my mantra. I only buy 70%. It hurts me. Yes. Sometimes I lose deals, but they're out there. I bought a deal just yesterday, a week ago, that was 40 cents on the dollar. I got the appraisal, a bona fide appraisal, bona fide contract. Wow. Is it possible? Yes. These people, they lived in the house. They're moving up. They're moving to Yukon. They're probably moving into $100,000 house. They live in $100,000 house that's they haven't maintained, and it's dilapidated, and they probably don't have the resources to put new windows in and jazz it up, and I do, and they're willing to sell it to me for 40 for a quick sale. Well, praise the Lord. They're very happy. They sent me a text message that blew my mind. Steven, you amaze me. What? I'm just solving their problem. They have a pool table. Did you see that? I put that on Facebook. Hey, anybody want a pool table? I took it off because I got like I put that on for 2 seconds. I took it right off because I was getting 100 freaking text messages. But the guy asked me, he's like, I got some furniture, but I got this pool table. Could you help me? I was like, well, I can't help you with the furniture because of bed bugs, but I can definitely help you with the pool table. And I gave it away and I gave it away to someone that needs it. And they asked me, somebody asked about it, and I already gave it away. So I'm blessing somebody else by blessing somebody else by blessing me. That's going to be a generational legacy. That house will yield me $500 a month with no money down, and I will not have any money in it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's March 2020. I closed April 20th, 2020. I mean, this market, even in the middle of the coronavirus.
Yeah, the deals may be harder to find, but there are still deals. There are always people who need to move quickly, or always people where they have a house that it's a problem and money's not their top concern. I think that's a good reminder to everybody. Just keep looking, keep working at it, and don't overpay just because you can't find the deal. So.
Well, and I mean, that's what's happening to these people. And now they have diarrhea because they've been overpaying for the last year and a half. And so I wish I would have documented this stuff, but the current status of wholesalers, I'm getting 4 or 5 emails a day now. And before I would get like 1 a day. Now I'm getting 5 a day from 5 different wholesalers trying to unload stuff, dropping prices every 2 minutes, because the ignorant people that were overpaying for these properties are disappearing. Now they're screwed because they got it under contract too high and they're trying to unload it and they can't.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing here too. It happened quick, or it changed quick.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to get bigger and better.
So with your growth over the years and being where you are now, I know your investing goals are different, but do you think is there any kind of secret to scaling your business? I know so many people, when they hear 50 properties or 80 properties or 280 properties, they can't even comprehend really how you get there. Is there any secret from your experience to scaling?
Yes. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind are 2 things. One, you got to have systems in place. I remember I had like an epiphany. I'm like, when I got to 50 units, I knew everybody's name. I knew where they lived. I know their address. I know their name, their address. I could have it all memorized. But one day it's like, Steven, if you really want to get to 300 units, it's not going to work. You being face to face with people, you're going to have to go outside your comfort zone and do your lead a little bit different, do your maintenance a little bit different. And so I just started working on better systems so I could scale more. I believe systems is the ideal foundation to scale. If you can't have a system in place, then you won't be able to grow. It's just impossible. So if you don't know systems, ways to do systems, you can hire a coach to help you with systems. You could there's not too many books on it. I've researched, there's like 3 books on systems that are even tangible, what I'm trying to talk about, like processes. I mean, there's deep processes and policies and procedures. Every massive corporation, how do you write them? How do you articulate them? And how, what goes in them, systems. And it's just the way you do it. And if you can I would focus on my systems. Like, I closed a property. I haven't closed, I got these 2 deals in the pipeline, and it's been a couple of months. Like it's been a couple of months. And so I was like, man, I started going back and creating a system, and maybe the Lord's preparing me to buy more houses. But I was like, okay, I need to have a generic cover letter drafted to the title company for closing instructions. Because in this case, I don't have a realtor. The seller is going to be a little nervous, and they are nervous because they've never done this before. And I was like, ooh, I got to hold these people's hands. Ooh, there's no realtor involved here to answer these basic questions of what's an extract, like what's a deed. I'm like, oh. So maybe I should have a FAQs. So then I'm like, okay, I need a system. So I created a system of step 1, get it under contract. Step 2, fill out a loan application. Step 3, email the title company, and here's the cover letter. Step 4, give them the information for the title company. Step 5, send instructions to the bank on where we're closing and who's the closer. Step 6, that's a system. And so, this was all birthed out of me owning several businesses as a child. I've been self-employed my whole life, but with the DJ business really taught me how to write systems, because I had a lot of DJs working on a lot of events and we were interchanging equipment. And I remember problems was I was on a DJ and I unloaded my equipment and there was no speakers. No speaker stands. And I made it through that gig really frustrated. But then when my life extremely changed was when I went to a gig and I forgot my pants, my tuxedo pants. And I had run a Walmart, sweating bullets, and I was about, size 42 pair of pants. So try to find a 42. Well, now everyone's big, so you can get away with Walmart. But trying to find a pair of 40 pants somewhere, on a Saturday mid-afternoon to black slacks and a tuxedo, that really scarred me. And I know exactly where I was. I know exactly what Walmart I was at, where I was, what time I could date them. And that day forward, I laminated a piece of paper, 2 speakers, 2 stands, music cube, music case, cart, vendor packet, blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying? I have it memorized. And so no matter what, I've been doing DJing for X amount of years. I would take that little laminate off the wall, put it in my hand, and stand behind my vehicle and wrote and recited that whole thing.
Sure.
That's a system. And so we fail at a wedding. You can't show up to a wedding and say, I'm sorry, I forgot the song. I'm sorry, I forgot my tuxedo. No, there is no excuse. It's it. They're getting married at 6 o'clock. We're not doing this tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so if you take the tenacity towards your business, I'm not leaving it to chance. There's wholesalers, and how I got that deal was from a wholesaler that fumbled. The wholesaler actually got it under contract for 37 or sent them a contract for 37, which was like, wow. And when I called those people, they got my number, and I was going to, in my mind, I looked it up. I was like, man, I'm going to get this house for 50. I'm going to get this for 50. Well, you mean communicating with them and talking to them, I got them to send me their contract from the other wholesaler. Nice. And so when I got their contract for 37.5, I was like, oh no. So I gave them 40 and they were happy, but I was willing to pay 50. Systems.
And now is a great time to be working on those systems when people are trapped at home and have a little more time in the evenings with everything canceled. It's a perfect opportunity to use to make good use of the opportunity.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. So 1, scale. Number 2 is start working on your private money. You will find deals. You may run short. Like right now, some banks are not squirmish today, but 6 months from now they may get squirmish. Okay, we don't know what's going to happen. What if there's a new president and the new president is anti-banking and the new president shuts down banks? It's not shut them down, but make it more regulatory. That's going to really, first of all, if there's new laws that are written for banks for mortgages, we're going to have a problem. It's going to take a long delay in closing. So then you're going to, the whole goal. So to scale your business, part 2 of the question, 1 is systems, 2 is private money. You need to be prospecting private money now. And that's the only way you're going to scale. I scaled without private money. I've just been playing with private money this last couple of years.
Do you think you could have grown faster with private money, or would it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have doubled where I am today. I mean, you have 50 units with private money and you've never used a bank. Now you're using banks. I mean, yeah, it boils down to deals, but 2011 or whatever. I mean, if I don't know if I could have took on houses. I was mature enough to take, but I am today. And I know today in 2 years, I'm going to be building senior living centers. I'm working at right now. I mean, I'm going to keep my regular business of buying and doing the single family housing. Then I'm going to be doing a light commercial retail. And then I'm going to be building senior living. So I'm going to take on 3 times what I've taken on 10, 15 years ago. That's only 3 systems.
Sure. It's inspiring. So with this, seeing how far you've come over the years, and then just hearing you speak, I mean, you just have like goals and ambitions and things, they just flow out of you. You're constantly looking forward. What is your why, or what is it that really motivates you to keep pushing and keep striving for more things, more accomplishments?
Well, I didn't want to suffer. I think now, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It says your internet. Okay, back. Okay. Well, my thing said your internet's unstable. But I mean, this is a great question. What motivates me now, basically, now I know this is, I don't know if this is going to be hard to say, but now I just look for the challenge. I look for like this senior living. I usually and I have to read about it, and I have to study plans. Now I have to learn to hire engineers and stuff. White collar people I don't want to work with, right? But what motivates me now is a challenge. What motivates me now, it's not the dollar sign. It's just the possibility. Can I do it? Can I be Ben Franklin? Can I be a Renaissance man? Can I fish yesterday in the pond and catch a little bass and then go tomorrow? Can I be that type of individual? Can I be all things to all the things that I enjoy? I just accepted the fact, and I finally have money to do this. I'm going to build as many Legos as I can. It's just a challenge. Now, when I watch these videos and these guys have these things, they build these crazy things that are just the most amazing, awestruck things. And I'm like, well, I probably won't do that because there's no yield in that. I mean, it's fun, but I'm looking for challenges. I'm not looking on putting on 1,000 units. That was one of my goals. As a property manager, I thought that was one of my goals. One of my goals was to get to 300 units because I got to 100. What's next? I got to 150. I look at who am I working with? What kind of person am I going to become through this process? And now I only want to work with the best people. I don't want to work with any jerks. And Facebook has really opened my eyes to how people are interacting with the coronavirus, and it just really sheds the light on people I want to hang out with, like the way they say it, the way they handle it. And I just want to work with the best people. I'm willing to pay now. Before I was too cheap, and I just want to take on challenges. I was looking at a new business endeavor where we were going to get into a little bit more providing housing for seniors in a different way. And my staff was not interested in it. And I was like, okay, we won't do that. We'll do it in a different way. But I will build because I'm interested in building, because I can see the future. And I think that seniors are neglected. And I'm not trying to capitalize on seniors. Like, I want to capitalize on them. I am a capitalist. But I think that if we can provide housing for seniors that's, a partial of their Social Security, not charge them $6,000, $7,000, but maybe charge them $800 to $1,000, whatever, maybe it's a percentage, 50% or less of their Social Security, and they have their own little unit and they love life and there's a community and they can make it through their senior years without a struggle. And I want to be the provider. Could I charge $1,500 for the unit that I'm charging them $800? Absolutely. But I'd rather take a little of a lot than a lot from a little. I'd rather spread over and encourage as many people. And I just think that I learned that from somewhere. I think it was Zig Ziglar or Jim Rohn. He's like, it's better to have a little from a lot than a lot from very little. And I know this with this COV deal. One of my biggest clients, not clients in my coaching business, but one of my tenants is this individual money. I have some business loans with them. They are renting some of my commercial properties. Okay. I am pretty exposed. When I was running almost 8% of my overall gross revenue. And they were the first people that sent me a letter saying, hey, we don't know what's going to happen.
Wow.
It really just, put it into perspective that, because I'm over leveraged with one tenant, it could really, and that's the problem with commercial. People get into commercial, it sounds a very lucrative thing. You got to have cash reserves. There is downturns, and they're big chunks. Look at all the vacant Walmarts. I mean, there's someone owns that property. Someone's paying a mortgage or paying some sort of taxes. They're paying something.
Right.
Insurance.
And so it could be a long period of time. Yeah. So, well, I really appreciate, I want to treat your time fairly. I really appreciate you being on today and sharing your story and your perspective on investing and kind of what you're looking forward to the future. I know people will really benefit from it, and I definitely appreciate you. So how can people find out more about you and keep in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to my website. It's savvyinvestors.com, SAVVYINVESTOR, savvyinvestors, plural.com. And you go to my Facebook page, and I'd love to interact with you. I have a podcast called thesavvypodcast.com or the Savvy Radio Show, and anything Savvy. And I'm here to serve and help. It's been a pleasure. And anytime you need me on the show or any questions, I'm sorry, my story is a long-winded story. I didn't intend for it to go that long. But if we want to reconvene at another time, that'd be fine with me. If anybody has any questions, they want to, hold the chat. And,
sounds good.
Support your local investors, and make sure you go to TrueInvestors.com. I can't wait to listen to your podcast, and I'm excited that you're hedging forward.
I appreciate it, Stephen. Definitely. We'll definitely have you on again. So thank you again. I'll definitely talk to you soon. All right.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook, and always be buying assets.